Hello ladies and gentlemen, you can call me Neonside. I'll be walking you through steps today, how to make your own maps on Roll20. For those who don't know, Roll20 is a virtual tabletop gaming website. You can play anything that's listed here, if not more. It really just doesn't matter because you can do homebrew games. But today we're going to be doing D&D 3.5 maps, my personal favorite. But you can apply this to anything. So here's my campaign. So we're going to go ahead and join campaign. We're going to go ahead and let it buffer up. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. Alright, so now we have our map that's trying to load. So what you'll probably have to do is zoom out, zoom in so it'll correct itself in the game. I'm going to go ahead and change the page to something new. So we're going to hit create new page. And that page has now been created. We will go to our far right. There's our map. Page settings. You know what? 25 by 25 is fine. I don't need it to be too big. But what we need to do is, it says here that the width by height, 1 unit, which is each one of these squares that you see here, that means that each one of those are 70 pixels. You'll need to know that so when you go to create your image that it fits to this here like a glove. So go ahead and hit OK. Actually, you know what? Let's change the color here. We're going to make it red. We want 3.5 compatible. I'll talk about dynamic lighting later. So now we have our page. What we're going to do now, we're just going to label this real quick. You don't have to. You can keep it as untitled. I don't care. Let's do another mansion. I'll do another one. Now what you're going to want is something called GIMP. This is a free to use program that can be downloaded straight from Google searching. All I did was simply type in GIMP, search. The first result will be gimp.org. Go ahead and click it. You'll find here. You'll download. And then from here, this is probably just a little bit faster than directly downloading just because it's a peer-to-peer network and you can just maybe download it a few seconds, doesn't matter. So go ahead and download that. Now, go back to your GIMP, hit new. From here, see we have our width and our height, and I told you guys to make note of the amount of squares that we're using. So we picked 25. So I'm just going to use a calculator because I can't do this offhand in my head. But 25 times 70 will give us 1750. So the width is going to be 1750, and the height we had set it as 25 as well. So it's 1750 by 1750. So go ahead and shrink that down or exit out of it. I don't care. What you want to fill the background with is not a color or anything of the sort, but you're going to do transparency. Go ahead and hit OK. Now we have our new image. I personally have some texture saved that I've Googled and edited, but for those just starting off, let's just do it from scratch. So I'm going to start off with texture for wood. And I have results. Let's go to images. Now, because this is supposed to be like medieval times, I'm not going to use any type of flooring such as this or this or this, but maybe more on the lines of this. This looks promising. Let's use this. So there's our image, and the copy image. Now you can either use Shift Control V, or you can go to Edit, Paste as, New Image, which is again is Shift Control V. Now that's too big, so we're gonna go to our layer. This will give us the ability to change the size using this tool here. Now, as you can see, that's too big. So let's do 300. And what that'll do is once we put this here, it'll auto adjust the size down for height once we click down. See? 188. So that's fine. Not a big deal. From here, you're going to go to your filters because we need to make this into a tile that's a repeating for our bucket tool that we'll be using here in just a moment. So, map, make seamless. Okay, now we have our wood. Now we're going to copy this. Now I'll explain what that does in just a moment. Okay, we need our toolbar. So I'm going to go to new toolbar. I want to shrink all this down because I don't need it right now. Let's go ahead and maximize that. Zoom in a little bit using control on my mouse wheel. Move this here. Now we have a paint bucket. Nothing came up. So we double click it. Now we have options for our tool bucket. Now, what this is you have your fill tool here, which is selected. Control D to undo. This essentially is the same thing, except it's using the second color there, so we don't need that. Pattern fill. The last thing you copied will be in the upper left corner. Now you're more than free to make your own and save up to this. You don't constantly have to, I guess, copy and make your own textures and whatnot. So this is our last copied image, was that this here. So now that I've got it selected, I'm gonna hit left click to fill in this. So now we have our wood floor. You zoom in, it's got a little bit of detail. That's fine. It kind of looks kind of funny, but I'm not too worried about it. So now we need a new layer, because this is our floor layer. We'll label it in just a moment. Let's label this as a wall layer. Okay. Now where is our layer? The easiest way to get to it is to click here on your configure tab, and you can get that just by opening any tool in general. Doesn't matter, they're all the same. This key here will always be the same. Let's just go back to the bucket because that's the easiest. You're going to hit add tab. You're going to go to your right and click on layers. Now we can actually see our layers. Let's have this up here, and you can toggle it back and forth between your current tool and your layer. And let's label this the floor layer. Alright, so back to our top layer. We need something else. Let's get some different wood. Something that might look a little bit better for in terms of walls. Let's use this. So we're gonna copy image. I'm just gonna hit Shift Control V. Again, personally that's too big for me. So image scale layer, and drop it down to 300. Now sometimes the image will look bigger than it actually is, and when you go to scale layer, if it's at around 300, you can leave it there and you can kind of tweak it. Just depends how many more details you want in it. I keep it around 300 because for me it looks alright. But that's not to say you can't play with it. So like, and a good example is when I'm doing grass, I might keep it around 500 and let it auto adjust the bottom. So anyways, we need to do the same here. Go to your filters, go to your map, make seamless. Then we're gonna go ahead and copy this and shrink this down because we'll probably need it later. So now we'll go back to our paint tool, and you'll notice that this is actually changed because the last image that we copied was the previous one. So let's go ahead and fill in now. Okay, this essentially is going to be our wood floor, not the wood floor, but the wall. But this is still kind of a pain in the butt to see. So let's do a new layer. Okay, we're gonna name this grid. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna generate a grid to go over the top of this. so that it matches up with this here perfectly. So if I delete the grid on here that I'll generate, it'll match up here perfectly when we fully stretch it out. So filters, render, scroll over to pattern, and hit grid. Now black is going to be a little hard to see, so I'm going to use red again. Now our spacing, that number will always be 70, or you could use 35. It doesn't really matter. 35 will just mean that it's more narrow. And the reason for that is if one unit is equal to 70 pixels, then we want this here to also equal 70 pixels, therefore matching up our grids together so that they work in unison when we go to delete. So we don't need them like that. This is our offset, so you'll see that it's moving. We don't need that. The width, this will just increase the thickness of the line, so you don't need to worry about it. 1 or 2, doesn't matter. Hit OK. So we'll go back to our image. Ooh, you know what? I don't think red was the best color. Let's pick a different color. So again, I'm just going to go back to my maze. I'm sorry, not maze, grid. Let's change this to green. Oh yeah, I can see that a lot better now. You don't have to worry about this because you won't be seeing it that much longer. So what we want now is our eraser tool. I'm just going to, not so much as an eraser tool, but it is a tool to highlight certain areas. But you can just highlight and then use your delete key on your keyboard to remove it. So let's put this in the center because this is supposed to be a mansion. We're going to come up. We got narrow hallway. No, it's a mansion. So let's make the hallway just a bit bigger. Okay, there's 3 squares. Enough for, you'll see that I didn't close out of the proper layer. So let's hit Control Z. Go to our layers. Drop down 1. And matches up just a little bit better. And there's our floor from below. Now, what are we going to do from here? I think a circle will do just nice. So I've got 1 square, 2 squares, and I've tried to line up that circle edge to that line as best I can. And that's 1. I'll try this again. And you can use these tools to adjust your circle as is. But now that I've got that, let's move down so that I'm running through each corner. Now it's opened up into a big archway. Then we can add some lines here. Let's change this to a square though. I want to make a narrow hallway going this way. And I kind of like my things symmetrical, so I'm going to keep this in general just about the same everywhere. So I've decided to make 3 pathways. So let's do some sort of kitchen here. Rather large dining room. But we have our players moving in and out of here, and they're going to want some room to move around. So scroll back here. Alright. Then over here, perhaps I want a servant's for a guest. So I'm just going to create a simple design. And you'll just see I'm just deleting things here in general. Not a big deal. Alright, and then that we have that, let's create some sort of main hall. So I think that's probably big enough. I kind of want to keep this even, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's line this up just a smidge better. There we go. And let's make this just a little bit wider. Okay, so we have this main room here. Now let's go ahead and do some more erasing. Maybe I'll have some sort of kitchen. So let's do, a hallway leading out of here. And then kind of curving off to the side here. Make sure we try to line it up just a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't like that. Let's change that just a smidge. There we go. Then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put a square here. And as you can see, I'm slowly building a map. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to change this when we get done with this to make it look just a little bit better by dropping shadows and a few other things. So again, you just see that I'm kind of going over it because it doesn't matter because it's only erasing this layer, leaving only the floor layer. So it kind of looks like we have these walls, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. All right, and this room here, we can use a circle, just the top half. And we're gonna just have it to where the circle is just coming through the edges. So the room looks a little bit more round. And we'll do something here later with stairs when we're decorating our map. I think we could probably do the same down here. Again, just kind of stretch it to the edge. Stretch it to the edge. And just kind of move it down till it's hitting those corners. Well, let's not, because we're going to have to use this over here. So, bring it up just a little bit. And I kind of just want to clean up this edge here. So. Let's move the circle back this way just a bit. There we go. That's good enough for me. So then, let's have his room. So usually in the throne room they have a back exit somewhere. So I'm gonna make a little hallway here. And we're gonna go down this way. And over this way. And down this way. I don't know, let's make it a little bit bigger right there. And let's go ahead and we'll have that as his sleeping quarters. Then maybe perhaps over here we'll create some sleeping quarters for the servants. So again, delete. Delete. Stretch that just a bit more. And I'm just kind of working here. You guys are free to do whatever you want. A lot of this I'll probably fix with dynamic lighting here shortly to make it look just a little bit better. And I'll go through that on a different video, perhaps. We'll see how this one does. And maybe perhaps a head sleeping area for the head maid of some kind. Hmm. That'll be fine. Alright. So now we have our basic map. But I feel like we should just add like small things. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's say this is an older house. We'll say it's trapped. So what we're going to do now is create a new layer. We're going to name this pit layer. Now we have our pit layer. Pit layer, you can move that wherever you want. In this case, we want it underneath the wood layer. And what pit layer is, it's just the layer I call the pit because we're going to make it solid black. And using our erasing tool, you see I've selected the layer now. Go to our tool, make sure it's open. We're going to do that background color that we talked about earlier. We're going to go ahead and fill it in. You'll see now that it's completely filled black. So what does that do for us? Well, as you can see, it's at the bottom. So in order to get to the bottom, we need our eraser tool. So go ahead and double click it. Now we have a variety of different types of possibilities and choices for our brush strokes. But what we're going to do is possibly, let's just pick one at random. That one. How big is our brush? Ew. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, good enough. So Control Z because I deleted what was on that layer. So we're going to move up to the floor layer. So the thing is, we're going to assume that this house is real old. And maybe the floor has fallen away. It's real brittle. This will give us our PC an excuse to not want to get near it. And we're going to do this in a few spots in the house. And I'm doing this because the PCs will not want to step on it. You can say that, you fall. Like here, for instance, I would say that, if too many people try to cross it at once, the floor would collapse. While if someone actually fell into that for just walking over it for whatever reason. Let's just erase just a little bit more of this. Alright. And see how we're just erasing little spots and speckles? Now, again, we have a variety of tools to use here. I'll switch brushes just a little bit so you can see what I mean. It doesn't have to be... I just like the one we just used just because it looks like there's cracks in the floor. But again, not necessary. See, now we got like a pit. You can do the same thing, but with water and stone. And I'll show you guys again in a different tutorial if it really becomes too difficult. But let's go back and finish up our map for now. We have our unentitled. This is our text that we use for the wall layer. So we're going to go ahead and copy this. Shrink it down. Make sure the layer is selected. Go to your filters. Go to alpha the logo. Scroll down to chip away. The script for it came up. You can set your chip amount and play with it. I just keep it at default because I don't really need it that much. Blur amount, the same thing. Yes, we want it to drop a shadow. We don't need it to fill in the background, and we don't need to keep the background. And you'll see that because I didn't change my image type, it changed to the stone. So let's Control Z because I don't like the way that looks. So again, alpha the logo, chip away. When we select it, you're going to go down to pattern. We're going to select our wood and hit OK. Alright, now we have our hard edges. Kind of gives it that the edge look that's kind of clean and crisp. You don't have to do it if you don't like it that way. Personally, I'm a fan, so it's not a problem for me. Now we're going to go to our other wood, which is this one. Copy this. Now if you only have the base 2 layers, which originally was this layer and this layer, then you don't need to worry about it. But because we put these pit holes in the house, we're going to go to our filters, alpha the logo, chip away, make sure that we have our layer selected that we're doing, which will be this one. You see the last image we selected was the automatic, it's called the clip art, that's what it's called. And it's the image in the upper left corner, but you can see that it's still selected. So again, just drop shadow and go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, apparently the layer I had was incorrect. So alright, so it should be the proper layer now. Chip away. There it is again. I'm gonna hit OK. And you'll see it's highlighting this portion, but we don't need that. When it's done, you'll see that it gave that really gritty look. This usually looks a lot better with stone. So what we might do is just clean it up just a little bit. You know what, that looks good. Let's leave it like that. And as you can see, we've got this pit-like area now that we know that if you step into it, you'll fall a really long way. There's our final product. Something simple, something easy. So now we need to go ahead and save. You can save this. This is what this is called. It's a XCF, and that's just a type of file that the GIMP uses to edit. So if you ever want to go back and edit this, I would suggest doing it before you do the alpha the logo. But we're going to export as, and we're going to name this mansion to PNG, and this is going to be stored in documents. For me, I don't really have a place for it that I'm willing to just put it into at the moment. These are your resolution, your size, whatnot. What it's going to do is export it as a PNG. PNGs are actually very large type files, So what I would suggest doing is, if you have a program that can change the formats, or if you know how to do it in GIMP, by all means do it. JPEG is a good one to use. It's a personal suggestion, but you're welcome to try out your own. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. Now we're going to go to our profile here for tokens. Hit the star. Now you can see these are some other maps that I've made. Just variations. And I realize here, you'll see that I have the grid on it. And I realize here that I left the grid on. So we're just going to delete this. We're just going to export as. Again, just save it as Mansion 2. Yes, we're going to replace it. There it goes. So back to Asriel. Upload. Choose file. So documents. And I'm going to hit the M button. Mansion 2. PNG. It'll be loaded by the time we get to our library. And there it is. I'm going to drop it over here. I'm going to close out of this. Alright, and I'm just going to drag until it fills up this area here. Then you're going to right click and it's into the map layer. Now you'll see that it's all kind of ugly looking. So how do we fix this? We just kind of zoom out and zoom back in. And we have a finished product. As you can see, our grid almost perfectly matches it up. You can, the only difference is where I deleted and where the shadowing is overlapping it just a bit. But in terms of progress, all your quarters line up perfectly. So now, let's go ahead and close out of this. I believe that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say on this subject, and I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial.